everyone, welcome back to my art channel. In today's video, I want to talk about how I went from this to this, all within a week. And no, it does not have to do with my technical abilities because I am a lazy artist and I have not been practicing like at all. And I don't really support that. I think you should practice when you can. But how I really went from, from this kind of like uncomprehensive piece to something that's subpar is actually rooted from my own inner abilities than external, like my technical skills, if that makes sense. So in this video, this is basically a video for those who feel like regardless of practicing and their technical skills, that a lot of people say that will improve your art, like just practice. And that will, practice makes perfect. Like that, I feel like there's another part of artists that we don't really talk about, and that's the inner part, the creative part that has nothing to do with your technical skills. So for some context, warning, this might have some kind of trigger, but I think it's very important for you guys to know because I just think it's very important. So just putting a warning out there. But I was always very creative. As a kid, I was very, very creative. I love like playing pretend. I love drawing. I love painting. I just loved creating things like with Play-Doh, just like anything that's really creative. And I didn't really receive much support, but as a little kid, I was like, whatever, I don't really care about that, right? Like how a lot of our childhood selves are, like we just went for it. And there was one day, and I remember it very, very clearly, where I was painting something in my sketchbook. And it was right after I saw this cartoon show, and I really liked the style, so I wanted to try it out. And I went up, like I was so excited about it, right? So I went up to my parents and I showed them the drawing in my sketchbook, and they just mocked me. I think it was like around 5 around that time, and they were just mocking me, laughing at me, telling me how ridiculous my drawing was. And as a kid who was very sensitive and the Asian part of myself of wanting to make my parents happy and proud, like it just crushed me. It just crushed me so much to the point where I grew up, like for more than 10 years, I've just been like subsiding all creative parts of myself. Like I wanted to cut that part of myself away. And so in school, when we had to do anything creative, I would just be like, oh my God, I hate this. I don't want this. This is not me. And I tried my hardest to throw that part of myself, to not even express myself. I'm not talking about like drawing or painting, but like in anything, like even with my fashion choices, even with sharing my own opinions and just, like sharing things. The whole part of myself, I just try to like push down, and I tried my hardest. And honestly, I think like it was kind of like a double-edged sword where it kind of kept me safe. Like it was a coping skill that I learned to get through my traumas and get through my anxiety, but it's also like a double-edged sword where it kind of hurted me. So people started like taking advantage of me people started really mocking me and bullying me and just thinking like, oh yeah, she's so like quiet, so I can like do whatever I want. I can make her do things I don't want. I can like get her in trouble for things, whatever. Like it was like to that point where people would really disrespect my boundaries because they saw how like quiet and sensitive I was. And back then, I think being introverted was not really seen as highly and not very accepted as now. I think like introverts were kind of regarded as less than, but anyways, so what does that have to do with my art, right? Actually, like, you know, after so long of just, you know, kind of like being in that victim mindset and being like, okay, why is everybody treating me like shit? Why am I always getting the short end of the stick? Why? Or like thinking like am never going to be as good as so-and-so, or I'm nothing, like I don't have any good parts of myself. I think like I've been telling myself that story for so long that I actually believed it. And then one day, I think, I don't know what happened, but just like one day my perspective just switched and I started like thinking like, I am good at this. I am good at that. Or I just started like loving myself more and wanting to like slowly get back into like expressing myself. And with that came art, especially during my freshman year of college when I just impulsively enrolled in a art minor. And I didn't even tell anybody about it. I don't know why. Again, it was just like an impulse thing. And so I started diving into the art world and I was very lost, especially because I think school and these bigger institutions really try to mold you and shape you like, this is how you're supposed to do it. This is what great art is supposed to look like. And you know, actually art and creativity can look like anything and it doesn't really matter how you do it, right? Art is art and there's no one way that just fits. So I think they try to mold me and it got even more like that part of my experience was also kind of traumatizing because they tried to really mold me into what they wanted me to be. And I think I was really confused and I really wanted to give up on art because I was not as great as my peers. I just didn't think I can improve at all. And yeah, and I just had a really rocky relationship with art. And I did want to quit like several times. And but what actually got me from this drawing to a decent drawing like this was actually just like continuously working on myself and improving my inner self, right? And reconnecting with that creative part of myself and not being so like, and kind of like not caring about judgment, not caring about expressing myself and getting over that fear of judgment that I've had for so long. And I know there's like so many people out there on the internet just being like, doesn't matter what people say, like, you know, don't stop caring about what people say, like they don't have anything to, like, it's easier said than done, especially because this is a deep rooted trauma ever since I grown up. Like it is a trauma and it gives me so much anxiety and so much stress. And this isn't just like one random person just like judging my art. It's not that. It just goes so much deeper than that. And so I had to really work on it, and I think I did a really good job. I like journaled and I even went to therapy And I like just continued like baby steps, just working on myself. Like getting into YouTube was a way for me to kind of get over that fear of judgment and to kind of dip my toes into showing who I am. And I think when I was always drawing, it always came from a place of judgment and fear. And I think that was a blockage in my creativity. So I think when I was drawing my recent drawings, it actually came from a place of like optimism and excitement and just not even caring about what people thought about my art. Like I'm doing this for myself. Like I'm drawing because this is who I am, and I'm doing it for fun, and it's for my own enjoyment. And Jesus, okay, not me being emotional, but like actually loving art and just not really, again, just not caring about judgment and just wanting to share art and just share and create, basically just for like creating. Like I just love creating and I really wanted to put out there. So I think getting over that judgment and fear and just being in that mindset has somehow like physically like, you know, went into my art. So now when I draw, it's, you can see it's coming from a place of confidence and just a place of just free and fun and not like this judgment kind of like place. And I think that's something that, yeah, a lot of creators and artists don't really talk about. Like, again, like I mentioned earlier, like a lot of people on social media and just like even non-artists say like, oh, just keep on practicing and, you know, practice makes perfect. But I think we always, like many of us neglect the inner part of ourselves, like working on ourselves to get over our fear of judgment, working on ourselves to get over the fear of like, what if I can't like drawing something good and then being like, what if I can't like live up to that piece of drawing? Like, what if I can't do this drawing again and be good? And I think that part is like a lot harder to work on than just practicing, right? Because there's so many like, because anybody can practice, right? Anybody can just take a class and, you know, and I think of course when you practice on your technical skills, you will get better, but if you neglect the inner part, the inner work of yourself, you will not get far. You know, like you can have the most fantastic work, the fantastic rendering, but honestly, people love you. People love the stories that you tell. People love, I don't know, like people just, I think people can just tell, right? Like if you don't have the best stories, no matter how good your rendering is and how realistic your drawing is, I don't think people would be interested in it. And so yeah, I think like working on our inner self is very important when it comes to art. And I know that I'm not the only one out there who struggles with like imposter syndrome or with feeling worthy of our own art or dealing with judgment, right? And or showing ourselves and putting ourselves out there. It's really scary, right? Especially if you have some kind of trauma experience surrounding like putting yourself out there and you know, like just like severe judgment. And also on top of that, you're like me, who's shy and introverted and sensitive. It's just a disaster, you know? So yeah, I just want to put this video out there. I don't know if this is helpful for you guys. I think you guys are, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys, you know, are thinking that this is some kind of tutorial, but it's not. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think like while we should work on our external part, we should also work on our internal part. And honestly, when you are your own source of worth and value and happiness, then it really does not matter about what other people say, especially if they're coming from a hateful place. Because there are some people who can give you judgment, but maybe it's coming from a place of love, like constructive criticism. Emphasis on constructive. There are some people who are just gonna hate just to hate. They are feeling really low about themselves, have really low self-esteem, so they just hate. But if you are confident in yourself and if you know your own value and your own worth, then those people does not matter. And you should continue to do art. You should continue to put yourself out there and show who you are, because that is beautiful and that is why I think artists create. So I hope this video finds you helpful. Stay tuned for more art videos from me. I'm thinking about doing some more art tutorials. That would be really fun. So yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, afternoon, or evening, whenever and wherever you're watching this, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!